WBJR TV6 News presents Metro News 6. The news tonight is brought to you by St. Louis County Federal Savings and Loan.
Good evening. The nuclear disaster in the Soviet Union again tops this edition of Metro News 6. All day there was speculation that a meltdown had occurred in a second reactor at the Chernobyl complex. Tonight, however, that seems unlikely. There are conflicting reports coming out of the Soviet Union. We do know that a zone of deadly radiation is being released from the damaged plant, and the accident is far from over.
Yesterday, by the privately owned Landsat satellite, show the plant site. They're not as high quality as intelligence photos might be, but analysts say these red areas indicate the fire and smoke, and this dark area to the south could be thin smoke. But Moscow television claimed the Western media are spreading rumors.
We will show a photograph taken by one of the workers at the Chernobyl nuclear plant, taken just after. So there is no gigantic damage, and there is no great fires, and there aren't thousands of people dead.
The photo does show heavy damage and no roof where one reactor was. The other reactor is believed to be here. And more frightening accounts of conditions were picked up by an Israeli ham operator talking to people who said they were near Chernobyl. And in Washington, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission's Herbert Denton said the fire is still going.
But I would expect material to be released for a long period of time or until the fire either burns itself out or is extinguished.
Even if a second reactor was not involved in the accident, the Soviets still have a formidable task ahead of them, that of putting out the massive fire still burning in the first reactor. Robert Bazell has more on that.
This photograph shows two of the four reactors at the Chernobyl site before the accident. Both share a common control room like this one. When the accident began, workers almost certainly abandoned the control room. They may not have shut down the system properly. This was one of the reasons there was speculation about a fire and meltdown in the second reactor. The fire remains dangerous and difficult to put out. It was caused because cooling water was disrupted, so uranium pellets overheated and melted through metal pipes. This ignited the graphite or carbon which makes up the core of both reactors. The graphite burns at more than 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Because of the chemicals involved, small amounts of water simply make the fire burn more. Because of the melting uranium, the fire spews out huge amounts of radiation. Meanwhile, the workers and others in the area who are exposed to intense radiation can be expected to suffer various symptoms. For some, there will probably be immediate death from destruction of the nervous system. Others will suffer bleeding, blistering of the skin, and intestinal and bone marrow damage, which can kill within weeks. Those getting smaller doses might survive their illness or die of cancer years later.
Although the Chernobyl accident is almost half a world away, residents throughout the Northland are worried about the possible health effects from fallout, worried about the safety of our own nuclear reactors, and worried about the possible economic consequences of the accident. Leonard Lee has more.
Meteorologists are closely studying weather patterns around the Chernobyl site to see where the winds will carry the radioactive fallout. Upper winds could carry the radioactive cloud to the U.S. West Coast by next week. But locally, health officials say there was little chance of any danger.
I doubt that we're going to see anything. There might be very minimal increases in our background levels of radiation that would appear over the next several weeks to months. But other than that, I doubt that in this area we'll see anything more.
Residents of Monticello are uneasy. They've been living with a nuclear reactor for 20 years and still feel safe, just a bit uneasy.
But it scares me. I mean, it did last night, listening to it on the news.
What's still unknown is what effect the accident will have on the Soviet grain harvest. Any major loss of grain could potentially mean sales for the port of Duluth.
We've seen the grain markets very strong in the last couple days, and the reason for that is because a quarter of the grain production, Russian grain production, is produced in the Ukraine. If this is hurt, they may need to come into the world markets to buy a large amount of grain from the United States or other countries around the world.
TV6 News.
Duluth police arrested 2 juveniles tonight after an incident at the Holiday Mall parking ramp in Duluth. Squads were called to the ramp about 7 after someone inside reported hearing a gunshot. Some tense moments followed while officers surrounded the building and moved inside. Elevators were turned off in the complex and First Street was blocked. At one point, what appeared to be another shot sent reporters and officers to the floor for cover. Eventually, the juveniles were arrested and officers were surprised to learn the shot came from a very authentic-looking cap gun. It turns out the juveniles were playing a survival game in the ramp and had several fake guns in their possession, including a squirt gun. The 17-year-olds were released to their parents' custody. Officers say they don't know yet if charges will be filed. All the recent wet weather has caused part of a road to wash out in West Duluth. A concrete culvert collapsed this morning, taking out a 21-foot trench of Beck's Road. Highway officials say the culvert was over 50 years old, and the heavy downpours last weekend were just too much for it. Crews were at the site all day preparing to install a new metal culvert. The road will be out for the next several days. Meanwhile, area homeowners are being warned that any additional rains could mean more basement flooding. Last week's heavy rains have left the ground completely saturated, and many basements in the area are flooded as a result. They could be underwater again if it should rain before the ground has a chance to drain. Fortunately, the National Weather Service is forecasting only light rains at least through Sunday. Minnesota Governor Rudy Perpich is trying to raise money to fund an 18-month pilot project called Sentencing to Service. Under the plan, judges would have the option of sentencing non-dangerous offenders to community service rather than jail or fines. Here in St. Louis County, a similar program is already in effect and has been for 7 years. Under our program, judge-selected offenders perform community work such as this cleanup project at the Duluth Zoo. The new plan would be supervised by the Department of Natural Resources, and spokesmen for our county program say they would welcome the new work areas for offenders and the added supervisory aid they would provide. On Wall Street today, the Dow Industrials plummeted 41 points to close at 1,783. That's the biggest loss of the year. The price of gold rose $1.20 to $346.20 an ounce. Silver went up 7 cents to $5.13 an ounce. Coming up next on Metro News 6, a smoking ban is proposed for Minnesota public schools, an idea that leaves some critics fuming. That story when we come back.
Your future is important, and we want to see you through.
When you think of saving money, think of earning interest in a St. Louis savings account. For a wide choice of insured high-yield savings plans, remember St. Louis.
For financial planning and safety, think of us. We're thinking of you.
Hello. Hey. Hello.
12 o'clock. Blow your promise.
Lots of people with telephones not made by AT&T are reporting some kind of complaint. When was the last time you had a complaint with an AT&T phone? If you've had it with second-class phones, get an AT&T phone now and receive a shopping certificate worth up to $20 in merchandise. AT&T, the right choice.
Red Owl and Country Store Foods present this week's 4-star features. Picnic Perfect Banquet Fried Chicken, $2.18 for a 2-pound box. Save on Nabisco's Oreos, double stuff or regular, $1.79. Tropicana Frozen Orange Juice, 12-ounce can, 89 cents. And Oscar Mayer Wieners, Beef Franks or Cheese Dogs, a 1-pound package, only $1.28. Don't miss these 4-star features now at a Red Owl or Country Store near you.